Rocks in front, his teammate Johnny Harvey behind. Good news for the fans up top, but there's those who support the Fords, and there are an enormous number of them. I've still got something to cheer because Dickie Johnson is still going, and he'll be spending a few relatively slow laps as we, down on the pits, see George Fury drive to the back for some fairly heavy work. So the Nissan Bluebird Turbo in strife.
2.5 laps completed. It's 0-5. Peter Brock in front of teammate Johnny Harvey in car 25. We saw the Holden Precision Driving team earlier. This looks like a repeat. Alan Grice is in third spot at the present time, and Gary Rogers fourth. So it's Commodore, 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 Commodore.
Oh, internal hemorrhage. The Kraft Smith Ford Capri. Now it's a tyre. Through the cutting, Alan Grice presently placed in second. John Harvey 25 in third. Gary Rogers in the fourth place. Our chopper shot showing you the cars coming across the top of the mountain with Peter Brock still stretching that lead and doing it rather comfortably. This scrap has been going on for the last lap and a half with Grice trying to run away from John Harvey. Harvey catches him up in parts of the circuit, and then Grice manages to pull away again.
Another car in the pits, by the way, Mike. That's the Graham Moore King George's Tavern Falcon. It's in the pits, so the pits are almost as busy as Pit Straight.
Alan Moffat across the start-finish line to complete yet one more lap in the James Hardie 1000 for 1983. Started off 14th position on the grid and is now up to 8th with a flock of Commodores, 7 of them, in fact, in front of them. Hello, 0-5. Peter Brock is in the pits.
Well, one sensation after another in this race. The leader of the race coming in very slowly, too. Just crawling into the pit area, the mechanics hustling around to find out what's wrong. They're putting fuel in. Anyhow, that's automatic. Larry Perkins, the co-driver, adopts the role of team manager, says, what's the trouble? They've got the bonnet up. It's something up front. He's looking up front there as well. They're still refueling the car. That's just automatic. They won't worry about tires. Peter's getting out, so it's going to be a long stop.
Not much doubt about what's happened to Peter Brock. There's a very large lump of oil lying around down here, puddles of it everywhere. And quite obviously, at the end of the straight, there was this great cloud of blue smoke came from the car, and it's quite apparent that he's blown an engine or blown a gasket of some kind, probably around about the sump area.
Oh, dearie me, and one's just gone into the wall up there at the top of the mountain, not far from where, of course, Dick Johnson.
Yes, now he's gone in very heavily in front. The question is, as the driver gets out, he's a bit shaky, but okay. One of the RX-7s.
Here's Peter Brock now walking into the pit area.
To break the bad news to brother Phil, do you think?
I think so. He's saying, I'll take over, Phil, because there's no sweat, mate.
Or make your own arrangements, big brother.
Larry Perkins there, who looks like he's out of a drive for the day as well, on the right with the glasses, former Formula One driver, a man really whose career was frustrated in Formula One by poor cars. He had the misfortune to drive cars like BRMs at the time when they were just about the bottom of the pack. A man of great talent.
Should also mention that whatever problems George Fury had, he is now being able to come back out onto the track. And Alan Moffat here dicing with Captain Peter Jansen and takes the inside running on Jansen. He's coming up towards the BP cutting once again.
Something loose on the top. Something loose on the top. I think it's just a bit of ornamental strip. It's a bit hard to say. Above the windscreen, let's follow it through. It's on the driver's side. Alan is driving a left-hand drive car. You can see it there. It appears to be... it's
like some of the rough.
Yeah, some sort of stripping around the front of the car. The pits, car 2, Steve Masterton, and the Masterton Home Sport is in the pits. There's only Dick Johnson left out there among the Falcons who hasn't had trouble.
A disaster for Peter Brock, undeniably, but he's not out of the race. The question is now, what will you do, Peter, to rearrange your driving schedule?
Yes, John's due in 5 laps now, and I'll hop in and do a 36 lap stint with a tank of fuel. Then probably Larry and probably Phil, you know, just play it by ear from there on in. But John's car seems to be okay.
So you can use, in fact, all 4 drivers in the one car if you care to?
Yes, we've all cross-handed, yeah. We did that deliberately in case this sort of thing did eventuate, but must admit it was very unexpected. First time I've had any sort of engine trouble for years.
And this is the car that carries the hopes now of the Holden dealer team. John Harvey, who has yet to win a race, who will come in 4 laps from now and hand over to Peter Brock, who will then do a 30-lap stint. So the hopes of the Holden dealer team rest on the shoulders of the men driving this car, currently running in second spot, following Alan Grice, well and truly in the race. One of the mysteries that we still haven't managed to solve, too, is what happened to the BMW. Maybe we can find out from Peter Werrett, who has Frank Gardner with him.
Well, we're bound to be able to get an answer from the man who knows all the answers. Frank Gardner, what's wrong?
We've got ourselves a tank full of dirty fuel, and we've somehow or the other where it's come from, goodness only knows, but it's right through the fuel system into the injector pumps and everything. So we've really got a total strip out in our hands at the moment, and you're just from hero to zero in about 2 seconds flat.
There's Bobby Morris. There's Alan Moffat. Moffat in front now, and Bob Morris on the way up Mountain Straight says, "I'd like to get by." Moffat won't let him. They've got a car to pass. It'll be a bit dicey as the two of them go swinging through.
They've swapped places a couple of times already, so it's on in earnest here.
Bob Morris, probably the finest sprinter we have here. He can really wind himself up for one superb effort over a short distance, but he won the race in 1976 with John Fitzpatrick, so he has the form to win the race, but he hasn't been driving for 12 months. In fact, it wasn't until the final practice session, just 15 minutes before, that he was put into this car in place of Alan Brown, a magnificent effort by the man who runs the RECAR organisation to join Rusty French. Up to that point, the car was only qualifying about 35th place. Then he put it onto the grid among the leading 10, and across the top of the mountain, it's fairly obvious that the Moffat Mazda is quicker through the bends there as they go sweeping round through Castrol Curve, passing some cars towards Skyline, down over the top and down through the twisting bends. Now let's see what Bob Morris can do about catching the little rotary as they come through the bends and down the long straight, which should favour the legs, the long legs of the Commodore.
Okay, let's go to the pits now with the pit stop. John Harvey out like a flash. In goes Brock. A little taller driver, Brock, and have to do some adjustments here in a hurry.
Well, they would have had good practice because it was Philip Brock that was going to take over, and Philip is about a foot and a half taller than Peter. Down to the pits to Peter Werrick.
Right here with Peter Brock jumping into the car now, being strapped in. In fact, what they're doing as well is taking on Peter Brock's full set of tyres from the 05 car, which is interesting. Brock obviously has a preference for those cars, those tyres. The pit stop is finished now, and he's away. Peter Brock's back in the race, and we'll see how the Holden Marlborough dealer team cars go from here.
Thank you, Peter Werrick. And the big cheer comes up from the spectators along pit straight as they're informed that Peter Brock has taken over from John Harvey in the 25 car. Back to this dice, and it continues again. Alan Moffat can't shake the man behind him, who's a former Bathurst winner and quite a card.
Moffat is in third place at the moment, being challenged by Bobby Morris in the Commodore. Grice leads, Cullen is second. Harvey talking with Larry Perkins about the car. 25 is the last card they've got in the pack. They've lost 0-5, but of course Brock is still there.
Well, this time Bob Morris stayed a lot closer to Alan Moffat as they came down through the S's and around the Forest Elbow. Let's see whether he can make up some ground. He showed last time that he was quite prepared to leave his braking almost to the suicidal point where the car was fishtailing. This time he is a lot closer and may, in fact, pass Moffat. He has the legs. Can he outbrake him? It'll be side by side down into the braking area. Bob Morris on the outside, Alan Moffat on the inside with the right line. But Morris is going to persist. There's no braver driving at Bathurst today. But no, Moffat is going to shoulder him out of the way, and it'll be Moffat who will take the corner.
He'll cut back on the inside, Morris, if he can pull it, and Alan Moffat, number 43, the Stuyvesant Mazda, having all sorts of trouble trying to shake Morris, who says, I was shot on the inside. Couldn't pull it that time. They come into the left-hander, and once again, Morris